Hi everyone, this is Paige Leslie. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the phonological process of fronting. So first off, phonological process is kind of a fancy professional way of saying these are the types of sounds that your student is making errors on. So we're talking about a group of sounds turning into a different group of sounds. And fronting is something that I'm working a lot with this year in the early childhood education department, working with 3 and 4-year-olds. Fronting is a major part of my day. So I wanted to make sure that everybody knows what fronting is and to go a little bit more in depth than we're able to in IEP meetings. So let's see. I'm going to first start by sharing, and I am notoriously bad at finding what I want to share. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Okay, so we're going to talk about 2 groups of sounds, T and D and K and G. And the reason why we kind of group these together is they are cognates. Cognates. So T and D are virtually the same. They have one thing that makes them different. Same goes for K and G, and we'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. So with T and D, we're making them in the same place. We need 2 parts for T and D. We need the tip of our tongue, and we need the alveolar ridge. So first of all, what's the alveolar ridge? So the alveolar ridge, you can actually feel this. So if you drag your tongue from right behind your teeth all the way along the roof of your mouth, you will actually feel a big drop in the roof of your mouth. So right before that drop is the alveolar ridge. So in order to make a T or a D, you're going to bring that tongue tip to the alveolar ridge and completely close off your air and then let it explode. So t, d, right? So let's look at K and G. K and G, you're going to use more towards the back of your tongue, right here, and you're going to bring that up to your hard palate or the roof of your mouth, the hard part of the roof of your mouth. There is a soft part way back here. So you're going to basically do that same thing, bring it up, close off all your air, and let it explode forward. G. So the reason we call this phonological process fronting is your K's and G's, which are supposed to be made in the back of your mouth, are now, your student is actually saying T's and D's, which are made in the front of the mouth. So that's why it's called fronting. And now, just for a little bit of extra information, the only difference between T and D and K and G is something called, aspiration. All that means is that after your T and after your K, you're going to get a puff of air. So if you compare the two, so if you compare T and D, you're going to have more air coming out of your mouth on your T than on your D. So you're going to say T or T, D. You're going to have a lot more air with T. Same thing with K and G. K is aspirated. K, G. And a little bit of extra information, same thing with P and B is P, B. P is aspirated and B is not. So that's it. That's fronting in a nutshell. The last thing I wanted to talk about was how exactly are we prompting for K and G? So a little side note, I used to work in elementary and high school before this year. So with some of my older kids, if they're working on K and G, and really wouldn't have any high schoolers working on it, but a little bit older elementary kids, 1st grade, 2nd grade, you might be able to kind of explain this a little bit using pictures or using anatomical models and kind of show them. That's not super meaningful to preschoolers. So a lot of times we use tactile cues, something you can do is take a wet Q-tip and gently press on the place in their tongue and on the roof of their mouth that you want them to use. But we're in a digital world, so we can't be there with you guys So we have to use visual still and describe still, but what is a meaningful way that we are prompting and teaching our kids how to use these sounds. So I've been using kind of 2 or 3 steps here and seeing which one works. So the first step is to get the student to open their mouth pretty wide. And so what that does is it makes it pretty much impossible to say a T or a D. So if they keep their mouth open, then you can say a T, but it's a really bad T. So it would sound something like ta. It's really bad T. You need to close your mouth a lot more to get that good explosive airflow. So, but we do still have kids that will raise up their tongue and say that bad T. So the second step, if it's needed, I have them take their own finger and kind of push down on their tongue tip. So you're not pushing hard. It's just enough to understand that your tongue tip is going down, because, you know, having that verbal prompt to have their tongue tip down, a lot of kids aren't that aware of what's going on in their mouth. A lot of people aren't aware of what's going on in their mouth. It's just not something that we really have to think about, right? So I have their tongue, their mouth open, their tongue down, making sure the tongue's down with their finger and going like this. Perfect. So, and eventually, once we get that perfect K sound and we start working in words, eventually I'm going to want them to not have to use their finger and want them to not have to open their mouth super wide. And because we don't open our mouth super wide for words like candy. You saw that my jaw was pretty much shut. Candy. We don't have to say candy. We don't want that forever. So these prompts are very, very temporary. And I left that sentence like I was going to say something else, but I wasn't. Those prompts are very temporary. We don't want to use those forever. And so, yep, that is fronting in a nutshell. I hope that all of my parents now know what fronting is, why it's called fronting, and what we're doing to treat it. And look forward to more videos from me. If you guys noticed, I am not in my usual place, but there's all my stuff. So I've moved. I hopefully have a lot more time to make videos and lessons for you guys. So if you guys ever have any questions that you would like answered in video that's a little bit more in depth than we can do in the couple minutes after therapy or during an IEP meeting, absolutely let me know. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.